The following program is the sole responsibility of the community producer and does not necessarily express the views or opinions of CCAT staff, Board of Directors, or the Town of Carver. Hi, I'm Tina Helen-Kavicki, and today on this edition of Carver in Focus, we're here today at Carver Old Home Day, where we're going to enjoy visiting some of the vendors here. It's a beautiful afternoon. Also within this show, we'll interview Craig Weston, the Carver Fire Chief, Sarah Hewins, as well as visiting Lazer tag at Boomers. Stay tuned. I'm here with Fire Chief Craig Weston. Thank you for being with us today. How are you?
My pleasure.
I have a few questions for you.
Okay.
You ready?
I am, I hope.
Excellent. Could you tell me, what is it like for a basic phone call that you would get, an emergency phone call? Can you take me through the steps from A to Z?
Sure. Well, we go on numerous incidents in the Carver Fire Department, and everyone kind of starts out the same way. First thing a person really does is they dial 911. So when a person dials 911, the phone call will get transmitted to the Public Safety Dispatch Center, which is located behind us. And if it's after 4:30 in the afternoon or till 8:30 in the morning, they would send out a series of tones and dispatch our fire apparatus. If that 911 call came in at 8:30 in the morning to 4:30 p.m., that call would be dispatched out of our fire dispatch center, which is located directly behind me. So basically, the dispatcher takes a call from a person outlining what the event is or what the emergency is going on, and they take all the information that they need, and then they activate a series of tones on a fire alarm panel that we have that dispatches certain stations to the call that are the closest. So then every firefighter actually has what we call a radio, a little monitor that they wear on their belt on the side of their body, and it goes off when a series of tones activates it. And when they hear it, they listen to the announcement and listen to if it's their station that's being called to the tone. And in Carver, we have 3 fire stations, one in North, one in Central, and one in South. So if their station was the one that was activated to the call, the firefighters would either respond directly to the incident or they respond directly to the station. And when I say there's 2 methods there, each firefighter, we have 75 firefighters on our department, and all of them live in town. They're all taxpayers in town. So if the incident is within half a mile ring around where they live, they respond directly to the incident. Okay. And all the rest of the firefighters on that station respond to the station for the appropriate apparatus. And then when they get to the station, they'd actually look at, we have a run card in each station, and the firefighters all have memorized them. And they'll look at it, and they'll know what apparatus to take on that particular call. You know, if it was a car fire, it would be an engine response. If it was a structure fire, it would be an engine, a rescue, a tanker, and a brush breaker. So they would immediately go to the call, and right now we are averaging 5.2 minutes on our response time from the time that the call is dispatched to the time that we have a first apparatus on scene. And that's kind of an interesting fact because NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association, which is what kind of the standard that we adhere to, has different regulations for volunteer departments and career departments. We're kind of a call department, so we're kind of in the middle. And they require a career department to maintain a response time of 6 minutes or under, and a volunteer department to maintain one of 14 minutes or under. So one of the things we're real proud about, we do it in between the 5 and 6 minute mark, and right now we're averaging 5.2. And then when the apparatus and the firefighters get on scene, obviously the incident, we try to stabilize it from there. But one of the advantages we have is when a firefighter responds directly to the incident, if it's within that half a mile ring, and we have firefighters located all throughout town so we don't have any gaps, as a firefighter, they can help you as a homeowner right away. And usually we have a firefighter on scene within 3 minutes, which no other department can do because even a full-time department, they're responding from the station, where we could have someone respond directly to the incident. And what that allows us to do is they can work with you immediately, solving any problems, doing an incident size up, making sure everyone's evacuated, finding out what the problem is, and they report that information back to the responding units. So that doesn't have to be done once that apparatus gets here. We've already saved that time, and you've been met by a firefighter in full gear that can take care of your problem. So, and then we can go to work from there. So it's kind of unique. It works well for us, and we can get a fast response to our residents.
Well, I say you've been doing an excellent job. Can you talk about some recent accomplishments and what are you most proud of?
Well, each year, obviously, we have a dedicated crew of firefighters and officers, and managing a call system, if it's managed properly, everyone is here because they want to be here and because they care to be here and they care about their community. It's not a money-driven organization by any means. So you start with a great attitude, and each year we strive to do more with less. And our operating budget is around $420,000, which is one of the lowest in the Commonwealth. It comes out to about $35 a person in the town of Carver. When all our neighbors, or the majority of our neighbors, have costs of $8 or $9 million, some anywhere from $2 to $9 million to run their fire departments. So they're well in the $200, $300, $400, $500 per resident range. And we do ours by design. We're not asking for any more. We like to work within those constraints because what it does when you talk about accomplishments, it allows us to do more with less, okay? And it allows our team to come together. And this year, as far as accomplishments, we took a surplus ambulance that Carver EMS was putting out of service due to age, and we actually put a group together. Our firefighters came together and we put it in service as a rescue dive/rehab vehicle. And the town gave us $8,000 to re-equip the vehicle, and firefighters spent about 5 months re-sanding the truck. We had it totally repainted. We did it ourselves. We re-equipped the truck, put new radios, a command center in it, and to you and I, it would look like a brand new vehicle. And actually, it'll last us about at least 10 more years, and it didn't cost the taxpayer much money for the value we got. And so we do stuff like that. We recently just did a raffle. The firefighters through our association put on a rescue jack raffle, which was going on for a year, which we raised money to buy rescue tools for this piece of equipment behind us. It's called our Rescue One. And that project cost about $8,500 to buy those tools, and we didn't have to ask the taxpayers for it. And so we always try to remember that we're all taxpayers. Everyone in our department is a taxpayer. And so we remind ourselves of that. So we're not afraid to go out and raise money ourselves if it's something we think we need. And, the town is very good to us. They always have been. But we only go to the town when we need something. If you notice us at town meeting or different presentations, we come to the town when it's something we need. And, we do through a lot of grants. We're very successful with grants. And we use our grants for stuff that we want. Okay? And that's kind of how we prioritize a little bit.
Okay. What are some goals and some projects that you have established for the Carver Fire Department?
Our biggest goal is to continue what we're doing. This year we have a lot of projects in the works. We have a new brush breaker being built. So that is being built in Vermont, and it's going to be replacing one of our older vehicles. And so we got to put that in service, and actually tomorrow I have to head to Vermont. It's about a 13-hour day up and back, and keeping progress of that. We also have a hovercraft that's being sent out to be rehabbed, so that progress has to be monitored. We have a deputy chief's car that's going to be being put in service. So we have a lot of projects in the work that we actually take as goals. But my number one goal is to make sure this department functions properly. We meet our response times. We have enough firefighters during the daytime and nighttime to call responses. And right now we average 18 firefighters on a call during the middle of the day. And that number goes well over 30 at night. And you can take that statistics, and I don't think you'll find a department, whether it's full-time or call, that can make those same statistics come true, to average that many firefighters on a call that time of day. So we're very proud of that, but that takes a lot of work to be proactive in how we hire and how we get people to come here.
Are there more demands for the summer months? Cookouts, more fires? Or?
Actually, you'll find it tracks kind of evenly each year. Right now, you'd be surprised, June and July tend to be slower. Our March and April and into May a little bit is our brush fire season. and so we tend to be busier there. And then we start to peak back up again in August and September. So anything can happen, as in this interview. The fire tones can go off right now, and we have to go to a call. So it's one thing about our job is nothing is scripted. I don't know, in 3 minutes time we could be at an MVA entrapment trying to cut a person out of a car. We could be at a building fire making a rescue. Doesn't happen all the time, but you don't know when it's going to happen. And so we have to manage a department with all those unknowns, and that can be very challenging to not know who's going to be on a call or when they're going to be on the calls coming in. So you have to develop a system that people want to be here, because it's not about the money. So they have to want to come here. So it's a creative environment.
Are there any needs of the fire department that the everyday resident could help you with?
Well, first of all, our residents are very good to the fire department, and I strongly hope that we are doing what the residents want, and because it's your fire department, it's their fire department, and we try not to forget that. We keep an open door policy. Anyone can come here at any time and ask any question. We have nothing to hide. It's a pretty straightforward organization. A lot of secrets on how we make it work, like making a cake. But as far as residents helping with the community, I'd ask them to continue supporting us. That's the biggest thing we find is just that continued support, and making sure they stand behind us. And when we go to town meeting, making sure that they know that regardless of how they vote on an issue, whether it's the fire department, we'll still be there. We'll still answer the call, but we are there because we need something. So the biggest thing I ask is their support, and keep doing that.
Okay. And where do you see the fire department in the next 5, maybe 10 years?
Well, I'm a believer in the type of system we have. Being a call system, the only difference you tend to find if it's managed properly, and it's all about, I believe, management and the people you have, is our firefighters don't sleep here, okay? And that's, our training is the same, if not above other departments. Our budget is significantly lower to the residents. Our equipment is as good, if not better, than anywhere around. And our firefighters take a tremendous amount of pride in that, because they know where it came from, because they actually bought some of it. So I'm a believer in this system, and this is a system that I want to see stay within the town of Carver. It's not the norm in our area. Across the nation, over 70% of the nation is volunteer or call fire departments, with about 30% being full-time and career fire departments or combination departments. Within Massachusetts, that's about a 50-50 ratio. And in our area, we're surrounded by mostly career departments. And we're very lucky that we've developed over the last quite a few years a very strong relationship with those career departments. Our neighbors, Wareham and Plymouth being one of the largest departments, certainly in our area and in Massachusetts, we have a great camaraderie among our departments, which wasn't always the case. Full-time and call departments tend to not mix well, and we've worked hard to make sure that happens. So I hope it stays the way it is, and that's my goal as a chief. That's what I believe in, and I think our administration, through Deputy Eric Germain, believes in that, and our firefighters do, and we've proven it works if it's managed properly. So that's where I want to stay. And I do hope in the future, with the next 5 or 10 years, the town does decide that they can't afford to build a new central fire station. That is something that is a project that we have tried twice for now. Once in 1998, we did a big research study on it, and then we tried again in 2005. And the taxpayers didn't feel it was appropriate at the time due to the economy, and we certainly understand that. And but again, we don't ask for things that we want. We ask for things that we need. And the problems and issues we have with this station that was built in 1957, the original part of it, aren't going away.
Right.
Okay, and it's my job as a fire chief to try to keep this type of system moving forward in the future and be very proactive and try to find the best fire protection for our community. And and our next plateau would be a new central fire station and a training facility, and that'll allow us to achieve so many more plateaus within the department. And so that is something I envision, but it's not something. But I understand reality. Okay, and but that's something we have to look forward to.
Now, I do have one last question, and I'm sure this will entertain and excite many of the young children out there, but can you tell me a little bit what's on the big truck behind us?
Sure. This truck behind us is actually called our Rescue One. This is primarily used for rescues. It's basically a big toolbox on wheels. It carries 4 firefighters. This stuff behind me is part of our Jaws of Life system. This here is a ram tool that draw pops out and actually would open up into a tool, and then we can actually, if someone was trapped inside a vehicle, we can actually spread the steel around them and allow the removal of that patient. The truck has an onboard air system which allows us to fill our air tanks that firefighters wear on their backs. So we bring this to an incident. It has specialized lighting and tools to stabilize an incident. Everything you can think of is carried on this vehicle. And you have to understand the emergencies we go to are always different. Okay, we never know when the tone's going out, where we're going, or what type of incident it's going to be. And so we have to bring everything with us. Our lights, our tools, our water, our hoses, because it's not there when we get there.
Right.
So you have to bring enough of stuff that you might use or might not use depending on what you need at the emergency.
So this truck literally has all the bells and whistles.
It has all the bells and whistles. As all our apparatus is designed by our firefighters. We form a committee for about everything we do, whether it's buying our gear that we wear, whether it's building a new apparatus. We get input from the different stations and the firefighters and officers, and we form a committee. As we're building a new brush breaker right now, that's a 10-person committee from the department that did the design plans of how we wanted that truck to work and operate. And what that does is that gets them involved in the project. So when the taxpayers vote the money for the apparatus, which is very expensive, when that truck comes in, they're excited to see it. They see their ideas on it. We know it works, it's functional, because they're the ones that are going to be using it. So this truck was no different. This truck we put well over 200 hours of design into. It didn't cost the taxpayers anything to do that. They all donated their time to be on those committees. So it's not a fancy truck, but it carries what we need. We know our boundaries. You won't see power mirrors, and you don't see the things that you might see on other towns' vehicles that are the bells and whistles. This truck will work, and it does what we need it to. So,
well, Chief, thank you very much for having us here. And hopefully when you get your new brush breaker, you'll invite us down and we'll take a peek at that too.
Anytime.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Welcome back. I'm here today with Sarah Hewins, Carver's conservation agent. Hello, Sarah. How are you today?
Hi, Gina. I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great for you to be here. I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
So could you please tell me, what is a conservation agent and exactly what is it that you do here in the town?
Okay, well, my job is to help the commission take care of its 2 mandates. And the state has mandated that the Conservation Commission is in charge of acquiring and protecting open space and the stewardship of that open space, as well as the protection of the wetlands in town. And so to that end, we have the permitting process that we go through for residents and businesses when there's a project within 100 feet of a wetland. And what I would like to say that we actually have a 100% success rate when it comes to permitting businesses.
Excellent.
Because we try to, it's not just we let anything go through, but we try to work with an applicant, whether it's a business or a resident, to make sure that the thing gets done, they're happy, but also the town is protected, the project's conditioned so the town is protected. I do a lot of just applicants walking through the whole process, and the open space protection, of course, is another whole ball of wax.
Could you tell me, why are wetlands and in open space, why is that so important for the town? Why would it be important for the businesses and the residents here in Carver?
Okay, so let's take them one at a time. Open space, actually, just by sitting there does an awful lot. It actually helps to recharge our groundwater. The less pavement or impervious surface that you have, the more the precipitation can go straight into the groundwater and get recharged. That's one of the reasons why it's always better to have a shorter road when you're designing a subdivision than a really long road. It also helps the applicant because it's cheaper for them. So there's all these little things that you try to think of to make sure there's less impervious surface. And the other thing that open space and wetlands do, actually they both do that, they help to recharge the groundwater. There's a couple of things that open space does, but wetlands do even better. And I try to explain it when I'm talking about this to people, the same way I talk to kids when I'm explaining it in school. So I say, think of wetlands as a sponge. And you take a bowl, an empty bowl, and you take the sponge, and you get a bottle of dirty water, and you pour it through the sponge, and it comes out
Clean.
there you go. So it filters the pollutants out of our water. And the other thing that wetlands do is I get a little Monopoly house and I stick that in the bowl, put the sponge in the bowl, clean the dirty water out of the jar, pour some clean water into the bowl, and now, as long as it's not too much water, the sponge soaks it up and protects the house. So they provide a form of flood control. And I say not too much water because I think it's important for people to know that while they may see a small wetland somewhere and they may not think it's performing any functions or having any value, you take a series of those and you add them up.
And they're performing extreme value to the town.
Yeah, the cumulative effect actually may be like a great big sponge. So you chip away at that and pretty soon you don't have the sponge to protect you. So the main thing though about open space is its value as a tax positive thing. I know you and I both have a child. Mine is now out of school, but for every year he was in school, for the tax dollars that I pay, which is a pretty average tax bill, we were a tax negative household because it just costs that much more to educate a child in school. And much as I love kids, open space doesn't go to school, but it still pays the same amount of taxes. So that really helps all of us.
So it's very tax positive.
It's very tax positive, and a lot of times that's a hard picture to understand. But
Now, I know you follow a lot of state regulations, but do you go above and beyond? You seem to get a lot of grants and stay very busy. Could you go over a little bit of that?
Sure. Yeah, one of the things that the town administrator, I kind of report to two bosses, my Conservation Commission and the town administrator as well. They both agreed that they needed someone who was going to be able to do some of the new programs that we were being required to do, some of the new programs that the town wanted to do. Okay. And one of them is energy conservation, stormwater. We have a stormwater program committee actually, and the DPW, myself, Mr. LaFawn, and a couple other department heads. Just a number of programs that we don't have a person there to kind of help out and be the, what's the word I'm looking for? It's sort of an organizing force. And so I do a lot of that kind of work. I've been writing the energy plan for the town for quite some time. I've done stormwater mapping, digital mapping, using the USGS, the GIS, the Geographic Information System software, and trying to get things so that the DPW has that kind of help, so they're not subject to certain fines, and we're required to have this mapping. So and I'm really happy to be able to do that for some of these departments. If I'm available, and they need it. Some of the other things, I kind of made a short list that I didn't want to forget anything. I'm thought you might want to ask that question. Aquifer protection and our land management, those are obviously things that would come under things like open space and wetlands protection, but it may not be immediately clear, or you may not, just permitting a project is sort of not enough. You need a lot of public education, and we have a regional 7-town Plymouth Carver Sole Source Aquifer Advisory Committee where we do a lot of education. Last year we did 3 public forums, informational forums, on just types of access to water, whether it's well water, whether it's public water. And then we did water quality, types and sources of pollution, and we did low impact development and how that might affect our groundwater versus conventional development. I think they were awesome forums. They're out there. I know CCAT airs them once in a while. People are welcome to come down and purchase them too. They're really, we all learned something just in making those. The land management, we do have a roughly 500 acres of conservation land, give it plus or minus.
Okay.
And so instead of going to the townspeople and asking for money to help manage the land, like going out to bid or something, I either try to get some grant money to do that, or I think it's one thing I'm very proud of is how many Eagle Scouts we have in this town. And during the past couple of years, I'm still working with 2 of them. We've had about 5 Eagle Scout projects come through our conservation department.
Excellent.
4 of which were land management plans, building bridges, marking trails, doing signage, all these things that my commissioners could do, but they're volunteers, they have regular jobs, and and the Boy Scouts need the project. So it's
excellent.
It's a nice marriage.
That's a win-win.
It is. And I'm sure I've left stuff out that I'll think of later.
Now, there's been an awful lot of talk about the coal property. Could you discuss the coal property and what's going on with that?
Yeah, in fact, I should have said earlier that 2 of the Eagle Scout projects took place on the coal property, actually. And yeah, the coal property, the way I like to think of the coal property is that it was, speaking of marriages, it was a perfect marriage of preservation and good development, because not only were we able to get 2 huge grants and 1 successful application for Community Preservation Act funding to buy the property, just to preserve it. But we were also able to do it in such a way that we could have a public water supply there. And as you know, that water is going under Route 58 and is feeding a lot, if not all yet, the businesses in that North Carver water district, that business district that's up north, and some of the houses as well, the ones who needed it. And so for those folks who might be watching this who don't know what was originally planned for the coal property by the original landowners, it could have been very deadly for the town in terms of tax impacting us as taxpayers, just that alone. But it would have been devastating for the environment up there as well. They were proposing 250 40B rental units on that property. And as I said to you before, I'm a huge advocate for affordable housing. We definitely need affordable housing, and it's certainly something that I'm proud to say we have some of. But we don't need a kind of a hostile 40B, shove it down the town's throat type of housing plan. And that's what that one would have been. It was very clear. There was no question. And that land had been a king's grant to the coal property, to the coal family, excuse me, back in the 1600s. It never changed hands, stayed in the same family. Real historic property, old cranberry bogs with the real species of cranberries, the native species. And it had rare species on it. It has Winnetoxet River is up there, which is one of the headwaters to the Taunton River. And tons of wetlands, and we know the value of those.
Yes.
So, it would have been a crying shame to lose that property. So here it was this great, coalescence of these 2 things. Many people think preservation and development can't go together, but they can, and they sure did in this case. And it's been a real, talk about a win-win for the town, everyone.
Excellent. I do have one last question for you.
Sure.
You are the conservation agent for the town of Carver, and you are also a select woman for the town of Carver. Can you tell me, does that go hand in hand? Do you find that it is helpful? Can you elaborate a little bit on that for us?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of an analogy to when I served on the planning board for 10 years while being a conservation agent. I think it's always good to bring a different perspective to whichever job you're doing. And I think that it helped me as a planning board member to know about conservation issues. And it helped me as the conservation agent to learn about planning issues. The two really can and should work together and not at each other's throats. And there are just a lot of things that, as a conservation agent, I brought to the planning board and vice versa. That I think it's very similar being a selectman. I'll give you an example. As selectman, I know that a proposal was made to the Board of Selectmen that had we signed it, we would have been signing over half of the coal property, essentially, to the North Carver Water District. And it's actually illegal for the selectmen to do that because it's called Article 97 land.
Could you tell me what Article 97 is?
Yes, and I actually brought my glasses because I was
Okay.
hoping you might ask that. Article 97 is Article 97 of the Articles of Amendment to the Massachusetts Constitution. The people shall have the right to clean air and water, freedom from excessive and unnecessary noise, and the natural, scenic, historic, and aesthetic qualities of their environment, and the protection of the people in their right to the conservation, development, and utilization of the agricultural, mineral, forest, water, air, and other natural resources is hereby declared to be a public purpose. Lands and easements taken or acquired for such purposes shall not be used for other purposes or otherwise disposed of except by laws, et cetera, and then it tells you how you can do that. So it essentially takes, almost an act of God to dispose of these lands, and it's not as simple as having the Board of Selectmen just signing
off.
Yeah, and in their defense, they didn't know that, and there's no reason why they necessarily should have known it. But that's just an example of, I'm sure there are many agricultural pits that we could fall into if Mr. Ward weren't there, for example. So, it's nice that we all have these different roles, and I think they inform one another. So.
Well, excellent. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Gina.
And I just want to also thank you for all the grants that you do write for the town.
Thank you
very
very much.
helpful. And it has been a pleasure.
Thank you. Pleasure here.
Hi, Carver in Focus is here today with Tony Fonseca from All Hands Drumming. How are you today, Tony?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you very much.
This is Old Home Day, and we have lots of drums out here today. Could you tell me, how do the children feel about this? Is it love at first sight? What is it that they like to do?
For most people, children and adults alike, it's love at first sight for two reasons. Because of one, just before you even hear it, it's the colors, because people are attracted to colorful things. So if you look around and you look at all the drums and all the bells and blocks and shakers, I've colored them so that they're instantly attractive to the eye. So children, it's a magnet for children and their parents. And then once they actually hear the rhythms and actually play the rhythms, then I've got them. It's just something, it's a universal thing, young and old, all races, all cultures, all backgrounds, everybody loves it.
Now, do you have a studio? Do you teach classes?
I don't have a fixed studio, which is part of the success of what I do, is that I go to the customer. So I would say 99% of my classes are in schools or community centers or recreational departments or summer camps where they hire me to come and teach their groups of children. So I don't establish classes and I don't have a fixed studio. I always go to the customer.
Seeing as you go to the customer, would you go to birthday parties, child birthday parties, adult birthday parties?
Yes, I do all of the above. So I have 3 types of categories. I do events such as this, family events, fairs, festivals, kids' days, family days. Then I do a ton of birthday parties as well, usually on Saturdays and Sundays. And then Believe it or not, the majority of my market is in the preschool system, both public and private, where I do preschool workshops. And then secondary to that would be elementary school, and then middle school, every once in a while a high school. But the majority of my time during the week is spent in preschools all over the state, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts.
And how long have you been doing the drums?
In this form, I've been doing it about 5 years. As a drummer, about, I hate to say it, about 45 years. Oh my God.
Your secret's safe with us.
Thank
you. When did you start playing the drums?
When I was about, you get my age out of that one. When I was a very young boy, I started playing the drums.
And it's been love ever since?
Love at first sight, my passion in life.
Excellent. And if we needed to contact you, or if our viewers at home would like to contact you?
Yes, it is allhandsdrumming.com, and the telephone number is 508-468-1207.
Well, Tony, thank you so much today, and it's been a pleasure meeting you.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much, folks. Thank you, Carver. Love Carver.
Welcome back. We're here with Jeff Demore of Boomers Playland and Laser Tag. How are you today, Jeff?
Thank you so much for having us. I'm great.
Great. So exactly what is laser tag, and what is laser tag involved with? Can you explain that to me?
Laser tag is an amazing fun and games. It's laser tag is regular tag and hide and go seek, all mixed into one in a blacklit environment with fog.
Now, what kid wouldn't want that?
Exactly. It's such a fun game. Kids from 6 years old all the way up to 77 can play this game. And it involves wearing a vest with a phaser, heart-pounding music, and you run around and have a blast, and it's a lot of fun.
No, that definitely sounds exciting. Quick question here. Do you have birthday parties? Do you do birthday parties here?
We do wonderful birthday parties here at Boomers Playland and Laser Tag. We have Laser Tag birthday parties, we have Playland birthday parties, and then they have parties that you can mix both of them. So we can accommodate from any child from 1 year old all the way up to 77, as we say.
Excellent.
The adults love laser tag more than the kids.
So I bet. I've been in there, and it is a fun time. So I noticed you have a restaurant over there. Can you tell me a little bit about the restaurant? What it is that you serve?
We have a 70-seat restaurant that can accommodate a lot of children and parents all at the same time. We serve pizza, hot dogs, chicken nuggets, ice cold drinks, chips, you name it, we kind of have it. Lots of dessert and ice cream. We do make your own sundaes.
Now that is fun. Absolutely. And the summer hours are approaching us, and do you have later hours, different hours to accommodate the needs of the summer?
We do have summer hours. We are taking a Monday as our refuge day, but we are here daily, Tuesday through Sunday, 10 a.m., at least until 7, but on Fridays and Saturdays till 8.
Excellent. That's excellent. Now, I do have a quick question about security. And I would think with moms coming in and having a bunch of children running around, security would be an issue. What precautions do you have for that?
Security is a major issue, especially going to a lot of different places with my kids. That security is an issue. We don't want any children running out without their parents. So we do have a wristband that has a chip in it that will set off an alarm if they try to leave the premise. All of our safety exit doors are alarmed. So if there was an emergency or if a child hit one of those doors, it would set off an alarm.
Well, I would have to say, Jeff, you have it all wrapped up. You have fun, safety, and food all together.
Yeah, we try. It's a lot of fun here at Boomers Playland, and every kid loves it.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in today to this edition of Carver in Focus. I would like to thank our crew, our sponsors, and CCAT. For Carver in Focus, I am Gina Hanlon-Kavicki.